Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, LLC, where you get information that you can use. I'm your host, Ida Crawford. But before we dive in, just a reminder to subscribe to Just Minding My Business on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Share Just Minding My Business with your family, friends, and colleagues. Engage with us by leaving a review or comment. Your support keeps this podcast going and growing. Visit our website at jmmbmediallc.com to learn how we can support you in getting more visibility on your products and services. So, with that said, grab a pen and paper and get ready for information that you can use. Wow, I am so happy to be bringing to Just Minding My Business today Robert Plotkin, who is a leading expert in leveraging AI to maximize creativity and innovation. His book, The Genie in the Machine, was the first and still the only work to address the impact of generative AI on innovation and the patent system. Recognized as a thought leader in human AI collaboration, Robert empowers individuals with the essential skills they need to harness AI to supercharge their creative abilities. He addresses the common fear of AI replacement by illustrating how embracing AI allows creatives to concentrate on high level ideation, strategy, and problem solving, while relegating the routine details to AI. Having a rare combined expertise as an MIT educated computer scientist, an educator, and a seasoned patent attorney, Robert boasts over 25 years of specialized experience in guiding leading tech companies in securing intellectual property protection for their cutting edge AI innovations. Robert is also adept communicator, hosting nearly 100 podcast episodes and being a frequent podcast guest on the topic of AI fueled innovation. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. That was a mouthful, Robert.
Okay. Thanks for the kind introduction, Ida. I'm really glad to be here.
Wow. So, AI is the hottest new technology happening right now. Some of us have embraced it, others are in fear simply because they don't understand it. So
Mhm.
let's get right down to the nitty gritty, Robert.
Yes,
So let's first, I like to define for those people who don't understand what is AI.
that's a great question. You'd be surprised to hear that even in the computer science world, there's no agreed upon definition of AI, but I'll give you what I like to think of as AI, which is any technology that can perform a task that previously would have required human intelligence to perform. So as computers get more and more powerful, that definition keeps shifting. With the introduction of something like ChatGPT, which was able to answer questions that we write to it in natural language and provide those responses in natural language, right? Before that, really only a human could
Mhm.
respond to a natural language, plain English question in plain English by summarizing or synthesizing information from lots of different sources. So that's a great example of AI. But there's a lot of dispute about what it is, but I don't want to get into the philosophical side. But understanding language and generating new text, images, videos, making predictions, like predictions about someone's future health. Those are all examples of AI.
Okay. And that was a very, very good description. So basically, when people I know I use it to help me be more creative when I'm writing. That's pretty much the main thing that I use it for. So, what are the other areas that business owners can use it for?
So there's a lot of great, easy, low-hanging fruit uses One is to summarize large amounts of information, extract key points from large amounts of information. Really, really good at that. Explain complex concepts in simple terms. Really, really good at that. And I'm talking all about things like ChatGPT and other AI that's based on
Mhm.
language models. If you want to take some information and describe it in a different tone, like a professional tone, or a funny, playful tone, or a marketing tone, really, really good at that. Any kind of that kind of translation of information into a different form, it's really good at that. Now, you mentioned creativity. It can be quite good at coming up with suggestions or ideas, essentially helping you to brainstorm. Really, really good at that. I mentioned finding patterns in information. Now, people have used statistics and mathematics to do that in the past, but AI has gotten a lot better at doing that. A practical example is in doing something like reading an X-ray or an MRI image to find patterns that might indicate that someone has a disease or a cancerous tumor. That's a kind of pattern recognition where the system
Mhm.
gets trained on lots of old images that people have determined contained those kinds of cancerous tumors and images that didn't, and it sort of learns what the markers are. And then it can apply those patterns to new situations. And so AI and previous kinds of technology have been used to do that for monitoring your computer for malware or viruses. So many examples of pattern recognition, which are then used to either spot things that fit the pattern or to make future predictions. Those are all things that businesses are already using AI for and will continue to use AI for as really low-hanging fruit in the near future.
Okay. Wow. So, for those people that still have not embraced, how do you, I'm not going to use the word persuade, but make them feel more comfortable in pursuing AI? Because it is definitely going to be, it is our future. It is in everything that we do now. So, it's like when the computer came out. It was like first it was just businesses, then it became home use, and then they got smaller and smaller. So, with that being said, people that are still like on the fence, what do you have to say to them?
I would say the same thing I said to people early on, as you said, when personal computers first came around and then the internet was try it. Just try it out and try something very, very small and easy. In the early days of the internet, I would have said, try sending an email. Try just going to a web page. Learn how to go onto a web browser or Google and find a web page and read it and how to click on a link. Try the really easy, low hanging fruit. And I
Mhm.
think that can help address people's fear because then it becomes something they're familiar with. They've seen it and it's less scary. In the context of AI, I keep mentioning ChatGPT because it's the most common. There are lots of other tools out there. There's one that's gotten very popular. I use a lot called Perplexity.ai,
Mhm.
essentially a kind of AI based search engine like a Google alternative. Uh, you could just go to perplexity.ai, do a search, and what's different than traditional Google is you can type in any question in plain English, and instead of like Google just giving you a list of websites, it gives you a paragraph or two summary of the answer to your question with links.
Wow.
So it's like giving you a chatbot like answer instead of just a list of documents. All these kinds of tools are available for free. So there's really no harm in trying them out for those simple types of things and then experiment. Try some more complicated stuff. Ask it to come up with a recipe or a poem or something else you're working on and use it in a context where there's no stakes. Don't start by using it for an assignment that you need to do for work. or a client or where the result matters. Just try it for fun in a situation where you're just playing around with it. And I think that will also help address people's fears.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to play with it. That way you begin to learn it and understand it. Now, my next question for you is there's a lot of fear about out there about AI replacing the human creator. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the most common things that comes up in the conversations I have with people about AI. It's very understandable when you see that you can use a tool like ChatGPT and say, write me an essay about any topic pretty much. And it will write at least usually a pretty good essay. It may not be professional quality, but that you can understand might make a writer
Mm-hmm.
gets paid for writing for a living afraid that that could replace them. And, one way to address that fear is to think back to previous types of technologies that were less powerful, like a spell checker or a grammar checker. Lots of people
Mhm.
use Grammarly now, right, which checks and makes suggestions on your writing. Google, people are so comfortable with it now, they don't remember how powerful it seemed early on, and they thought it was going to replace researchers and so forth. And what's happened instead? All of these tools now are being used by writers to help them do their job more easily, more quickly, and more effectively. Now, with a more powerful tool like ChatGPT, you need to learn new skills. But if you do, you can use that kind of tool to help you do your writing or create your artwork or do whatever your other task is more effectively instead of being replaced by. Now, there's a saying I've heard a lot of people use. I can't claim credit for it, which is that whatever job you're in, let's say it's a writer, uh, the AI isn't going to replace writers, but writers who learn how to use AI will replace writers who don't use it. That's a good way to think.
Yes, yes, I have to agree. And you have to be able to learn new ways, learn new things. You have to be coachable, all of that, so that you can keep up with what's going on in the world. You know, and this is one of the things that not going away. So we might as well get on the wagon and make it work for you.
Yeah, and there are some surprising ways in which that can work. So I we both mentioned brainstorm. I will sometimes come up with an idea for something I want to write, and I will then ask ChatGPT come up with some potential headlines or titles. Uh, and I'll give it specific suggestions. I'll say my audience is the following. In my case, it might be my audience is founders and executives at high tech companies. And then I'll say I want the tone to be professional or playful
Mhm.
or humorous. The more specifics you can give it about what your goal is, uh, what your tone is, who your audience is, the better suggestions it'll give you. And I'll say, give me 10 alternative suggestions. And then I'll look at them. And I might throw out 9 out of the 10. I might throw out 10 of the 10 and say, try again. But
Mhm.
I often find that's very helpful. If you're a writer or any kind of creative, sometimes the hardest part is getting started. As a writer, it's staring at the blank page, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
But getting some of those ideas can get your juices flowing. And then you might take that title and then go and do some writing manually on your own and then come back. I often use it when I'm getting stuck. I might get stuck on a sentence or something or a paragraph, and I'll just take that whole paragraph, put it into ChatGPT, and I'll say, here's the problem I'm having with this paragraph. I don't like the wording, or I don't like the phrasing, or I need to come up with a metaphor, or so. Give me a few suggestions, and it'll give me some suggestions. And again, sometimes I may not even use any of its suggestions, but they help me keep in the flow.
Yes.
So it I think helps encourage a more free flowing, experimental type of writing or creative process generally, and just helps you to keep moving. And that's really, really helpful.
Yes.
It's not doing the work for you necessarily, but you're using it as an assistant.
Yes. And that's the way I use it, the same way you do. If I'm sitting down trying to create a blog or I'm trying to create an ad or some kind of marketing material, sometimes I'm like, okay, I might say it this way, and then I'll take that whole paragraph, put it into chat GPT, and then see what they come up with.
Yeah. It gives me new insights, perspectives on things I wouldn't have thought of. Sometimes I'll put in something and say, give me four different alternatives to this. I want one to be very professional. I want one to be funny. I want one to be, give me and that's really helpful to see
Yes,
the
it
same
is.
sentence or paragraph from different perspectives. And it's not always the greatest, but it doesn't have to be.
Right,
It just has to
exactly.
help.
Exactly. And then you can go ahead and inject yourself in it,
Yeah.
just to change it up a little bit. Wow. So, Robert, if people want to work with you or learn more, how do they connect with you?
Yes, if you're a creative, if you're a writer, an artist, a marketer, anyone else who is creating in their work or just for fun, check out my website, robertplotkin.com. That's where I post up all the time about making use of AI to be more creative and productive and efficient. I just posted a blog article on there about a certain strategy for using ChatGPT to interview you to help write. So I post stuff like that all the time. If you're an inventor or you're at an innovative company and you're looking for intellectual property protection for your work, go to blueshiftip.com. That's my law firm. Or you can just at any time follow me on LinkedIn. I post stuff there all the time. LinkedIn.com/in/Robert.
Yes. Okay. And that leads me to my next question about the intellectual property. Let's dive into that because, I mean, everybody's grabbing stuff with AI. And at some point, I believe you're going to grab somebody else's stuff or close to it. So how does that work? How does AI intellectual property work?
Yeah. So you're asking about if I'm using a tool, like let's say an art generating tool like DALL-E or Midjourney or Leonardo is one, and it creates a piece of art for me. And you're saying, let's say that's very similar to some artist's piece of art that's copyrighted.
Mm-hmm.
That's a somewhat open question right now in the law. Uh, there's a bunch of cases going through the courts right now to address this, and we don't know where it's going to come out. There is a practical fix in the interim, which is that all of the major companies like Microsoft and OpenAI and Adobe have provided indemnification. Meaning they say to you as a user, if you create something using our tool and someone else, a copyright owner, comes and accuses you of copyright infringement, we will cover your legal.
Oh, okay.
We, Microsoft or OpenAI, it's a way of encouraging people to feel free in making use of these tools.
Okay.
Another solution is that there are companies, I know Getty Images is one of them. Adobe is doing it as well, where they're saying, we have only trained our software on art that we own the copyrights to. And therefore, we can guarantee that anything you create using our tools will not infringe copyright because we already own the copyrights. Whereas OpenAI, they scan the whole internet. They use text and images to create a ChatGPT and DALL-E that they did not own the copyrights to.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, they can't truly guarantee that anything you generate for yourself using their tool won't inadvertently infringe on someone else's copyright. So I suspect what's going to happen in the not too distant future is just like with music, with the licensing agencies like BMI and ASCAP, there are going to be some major business deals struck to pay royalties to copyright owners
Mm-hmm.
so that people can then use tools and like all the ones we've been talking about. And then the creators will get compensated on the back end.
Okay.
That's essentially how all of the music copyright issues were resolved from the early days of the internet. You know, if you remember the Napster,
Yes.
there was the similar issue came up. I was a little bit more direct back then, but a lot of that was resolved through business deals where major companies and technology companies and copyright owners struck agreements with each other to provide compensation back to copyright owners so that everyone was happy. We'll see. We'll see if that occurs. I hope that something happens so that copyright owners and creators can get compensated and so that they can also have control over how and when their works are used to train AI models,
Mhm.
and so that end users can feel free and comfortable to use these tools to create things, then everyone will be happy.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, as this evolves, a lot of different things are going to come up, that are going to have to be addressed because we don't know the full power of AI until it actually happens.
Yeah, yeah, we don't. It's somewhat old ground, and it's quite a lot of new ground. Like I said, it's similar to what happened in the early days of the internet with music streaming, but that was just direct copying of a song. Now we've got these tools that can create a new song that might draw from 50 previous songs
Hmm.
and mix them together and modify them. So that's the way in which things are different and more complicated as a
Hmm.
result of AI. And yeah, you're right. We don't really know how it's all going to pan.
Absolutely. So, who actually owns AI?
There's a lot of components to AI. If you ask who owns the software, like ChatGPT, ChatGPT is a piece of software that's owned by OpenAI, which is a company that has a bunch of investors in it. And then Microsoft has its Copilot, and then there's Claude is another company, and then Google has its own. Everyone has their own models, which they typically own, and then the software that uses the models. So then there are what are called open source models.
Hmm.
There is a company called Hugging Face, interesting, that's based on the icon of the Hugging Face, where there are hundreds of thousands of open source language models and image models that people, universities, companies have made, and that anyone, you really have to be a programmer to know how to make use of them. But you can then take one of those language models and create your own type of ChatGPT from them
Mm.
for free. And some of them are starting to catch up in their power to things like ChatGPT. For a while, they were lagging behind, but the whole world of open source AI is really, really growing. And that's another thing where we don't know how that is going to pan out. I mean, ChatGPT has been dominant for the last year, but because it trained itself on the internet, which is available to anyone to access,
Mhm.
these open source models are being trained on the internet as well. All the data is out there for anyone to use. So some people are predicting that we're going to see a lot of alternatives to something like a chat GPT as people turn more and more to open source models, which are not quite owned. It gets a little bit complicated legally, but they are essentially available for use by anyone in a way that something like GPT is not, because it's owned and controlled so tightly.
Mhm.
Very, very interesting.
Yes, yes. It's going to be interesting as we continue to evolve in this technology. So, people that want to actually learn how to work with AI. I mean, to me, it's fairly simple, but like you, I have a computer background. So it's like software, I I can learn any type of software.
Yeah.
S-
So if you are a programmer and you're a real tech person, there's a bunch of great resources out there for learning how to create new AI applications. And some of them are available even for free. Microsoft and Amazon have provided some courses for free on that.
Mhm.
Now, if you are not a tech person and what you're looking to do is learn how to use AI, again, I'd say go to my website. But there's a bunch of other people out there. There's someone named Ali Miller. She had been at Amazon for a long time. I know she just posted a free course you can sign up for on how to use AI. There's someone, Connor Grennan at NYU, who's been posting a lot of great free stuff on how to use AI. I would suggest, go on YouTube, go on LinkedIn and search. There is so much great free material available for
Mm-hmm.
how to make use of AI as a non-tech person. And it's a very exciting time we're in that all of these tools like ChatGPT, Midjourney, Dolly are of at least their basic versions, which are quite powerful,
Yes.
are available for free for
Mhm.
anyone to use. There's paid
Absolutely.
versions of everything that are more, but for most people, honestly, even the free versions are quite good. And for ChatGPT, look, I'm not a salesperson for them, but the paid version is only $20 a month. And if you do make a substantial use of it, it's quite a good value for what you can
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your book, uh, The Genie in the Machine. I like the name of the book. That's really what it is. That's yeah, The Genie in the Machine. So
get. Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah. So this was my first book, came out in 2009. So it's quite a long time ago. And I'm working on another book now. But the Genie in the Machine was about how people were using AI to automate the process of inventing. So I interviewed lots of people. I interviewed a team at NASA who used AI to create a design for a new kind of antenna that actually went on a NASA space mission. I interviewed someone who used AI to develop the original design for the Oral-B cross-action toothbrush. So the AI, in a sense, came up with the idea of crossing the bristles against each other, the basis for the cross-action toothbrush. So there were lots of inventions being created using AI. I'll use the antenna as a good example. There's a picture of it in the book, and most antennas are in the shape of a V or a Y or a
Hmm.
straight line or something else that makes sense. This,
Yes.
the inventors said, it looked like a paper clip that you had unwound and just mashed up into almost a random shape. It's nothing that a human would have thought of designing. But the
Mm.
AI, because it tried out a very, very large number of designs and then was able to simulate how well they would work, it came up with this antenna design that worked better than all the alternatives. Meaning that the AI doesn't get limited by preconceived notions that a human engineer might have. What's a good design? What's a bad? The AI just tries stuff out, whatever it might be, evaluates it, and then revises and does it without any notion. So this is what I was writing about back then, including patents that people were obtaining on inventions that were primarily or largely computer generated. Uh, but at the time, the technology was so much more primitive than what it is now that
Hmm.
I think that the book didn't get very widespread attention. Now, this is a very, very big topic in my field of patent law. The U.S. patent offices around the world have been paying attention to this. There have been court cases involving inventors who have been seeking to get patents on AI-generated inventions, and so it's a very exciting time to be involved in IP or intellectual property protection for AI.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. This has been amazing, Robert. So again, how do people connect with you? How do you actually work with people? Do you
Yeah,
tell us about how you would work with people?
yeah. So the way I primarily work with people as a intellectual property attorney is if someone has an invention or they have a company that's developing either new type of AI technology or they're using AI to develop something new, they'll come to me and I will help them get intellectual property protection, usually patents for what they're doing. So that's at my law firm, Blue Shift IP, which you can find at blueshiftip.com. But because I'm so passionate about this, because I use AI in my own work, because I'm also a writer and a creative person, and I've learned a lot over the years about how to make use of AI to write, be more productive, efficient, and just have fun and be experimental. I wanted to share that with people. So that's when I launched robertplotkin.com. It's a website. Right now, everything is available there for free. You can see blog postings, videos, interviews like this with me on people's podcasts and elsewhere. I might start making courses available there in the future, but right now, that website.
Okay. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard it. You got a free resource from someone who is super passionate about the industry, and you cannot go wrong. So, one more time, Robert, how do people connect?
Yeah. I post on LinkedIn all the time. If that's a place that you visit in your professional world, go to linkedin.com/in/Robert Plotkin. If you're creative, you want to learn how to use AI for writing, for creating art, videos, advertisements, anything like that, go to robertplotkin.com. And if you are an innovator running an innovative company using AI, developing new types of AI, go to blueshift.com.
Okay, so thank you so much, Robert. This has been very eye-opening. And I'm a techie person, so it's all exciting to me. I find myself just scrolling the internet, teaching, learning different things about AI. Next thing I know, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh, let me get off this computer. But that's the techie in me.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you sharing it with our audience. And I hope everybody got quite a bit from this. I know I did. And definitely, if you want to reach out to Robert, don't hesitate. Reach out because he knows his stuff and he wants to help you. Simple as that. So thank you, audience. Thank you, Robert, for taking time out with us. And we definitely want to do this again.
Thanks so much for having me. I really had a great time.